See it. So I'm with Liz Ashbrook. Can you see her? Can you see
Hi,
Liz?
Liz.
I can see me.
I can see Liz, yes.
Hi.
So we have some questions for you. What I want to do is make I'm video recording this call, and I want to ask you some questions about what's going on, what's doing, and then we'll put it up somewhere on the internet, and people can see it, right? The questions I want to ask you are, where are you going? What are the problems? How can you solve them? And what do you need? And how to donate?
Okay. So let's start with where am I going? First of all, remember I'm Filipino, so this is very personal. The entire central Philippines has been affected. The Visayas. Fortunately, my family is way up north in the mountains in Luzon. So from this storm, they are unaffected. The people that I've been working with in the Philippines for the last year to open up a childbirth manger in one of the worst slums outside of Manila, they are people from Cebu and Bohol area. And so, in a way, yeah, and those are the areas that are in the central Visayas, but also remember on October 15th, just last October, we had a big earthquake there. And in fact, every heritage church, just about on the island of Bohol was destroyed. So places where my husband and I went to hear children sing, for example, beautiful, beautiful heritage churches were all destroyed. And these are the places that families go to gather when there is a storm, when there is a need for shelter, when your house is destroyed, you go to the church. Well, October 15th, all the churches in Bohol were destroyed. The city of Cebu was really put into ruins. And so aid was starting to flow in for them for that earthquake. And we were working slowly with people on the ground, trying to see what we could do, and still holding back and saying, okay, rushing in after a disaster isn't such a smart thing to do. So we were trying to go very slowly and very thoughtfully and very wisely. And the people that we're associated with in Cebu from the WADA Foundation, they were actually feeding people. I know that Mr. June and Father Ned and Tina, their city was pretty much destroyed. They lost their father, died 2 days after the earthquake, and then probably because he was moved from the hospital room he was in to the parking lot when the hospital was destroyed. Anyway, they've been feeding 300-400 people a day.
Butt in for a second. I can edit this whole video and render it. So I want to tell you, you probably have about, let's say, 3 minutes to do the whole story, right? So
okay.
It's like, what are the problems? Why are you going in there? Why is your organization going in there?
Okay.
And like, how can you solve the problems? What do you need? And
so I can start over. Let's see what happens if I start over.
Oh, wait. What do you want?
I had an idea the other day. CNN did a special on the tsunami babies in the larger city. I can't remember the name.
Tacloban.
That doesn't sound like it.
You mean you're talking about in Aceh?
No. In the Philippines.
Okay.
And they had a story about the babies that had been born since the tsunami, and how they.
Yes, can I get to that?
And since you're one of the CNN heroes, they might be very interested in hearing how you're going to the Philippines.
Yeah, they actually did write to me right away, and they asked me for contacts there, which I gave them. So they went straight in, probably based on my contacts. So what's going on in the Philippines right now? It's been a little more than a week since the big storm. Remember, previous to the storm, the Visayas suffered an earthquake. That was October 15th of this year. So they were already pretty much on their knees, especially on the island of Bohol and the city of Cebu, which is the capital city of the. Hi. So why is Bumisehat going into the Philippines? First of all, I'm Filipino, so it's very personal. We have been working for the past year to make a step into the Philippines, and this has sort of pushed us ahead by about 6 months. What happens to mothers who are pregnant when disaster strikes? Just like everyone else, they become homeless, they stop having clean drinking water, and there's no food. And when you're pregnant, when you're carrying a baby, your blood pressure begins to rise, you begin to have all kinds of complications when you don't feed your body and hydrate your body. And remember, the Philippines, 14.6% of the total population is pregnant at any given time. So it's a lot of people. 11.5 million people were affected by the Typhoon Yolanda, or Haiyan, as it was called. And when you think of 11.5 million, do the math, how many people were pregnant when the storm hit? So those people, and it's already beginning, you're starting to see it in the news, are going into what used to be health centers, what is basically rubble and the remains of hospitals, the remains of health centers, and they're having premature babies. And the premature babies aren't making it. And my experience, for example, in Haiti, was that when I went into the hospital to work in Jacmel, there was no provision for feeding the mothers, even in labor, even postpartum. There was no provision for them to have a drink of water. And that's where Bumi Sehat really takes over. First, we go out to the communities and we try to feed the women and children. We'll feed the men too, but we really try to focus on the women and children because they're less aggressive, and if there's a fight for food, they're not going to get it. So we try to feed women, children, families. And then we go into the hospitals and we feed the women in labor and we feed the women postpartum. One of the things we started when we were in Jogja, it was an EDIP Foundation idea, and we used it also in Padang. And that was we would go to the hospitals.
What country are those places in?
Jogja and Padang are in Indonesia. Jogja experienced a major earthquake in 2006, and in 2008 we had Padang, and then of course 2010 was Haiti. And so it seems like every 2-3 years we're going to have to respond to a major earthquake or catastrophe on Earth. So what we found is that the mothers would come into the health centers or the broken hospitals, and they'd have their babies. If they were blessed enough for their baby to be term and not premature, if their baby was to make it, then there was the problem of they didn't want to go home because they had no home. And in Haiti, they had to leave the hospital, which was just a tent at that point. They had to leave the hospital tent within 6 hours, even if they had cesarean birth. And they had to go home to nothing. They didn't even have tents yet. So where we take over as Bumi Sehat is we bring family survival kits. We'll be making those up in Manila this week. And those survival kits mean that you have a tarp, you have a plastic flooring, you have an entire kerosene cook stove with fuel and pots and pans, you have a towel, you have sarongs, and that tarp can be used it all comes in a big bucket, so you can do rain catch and have water. And our team organizes so that when the mothers go home from the hospital, they've already gone with the woman's family and they've cleared the rubble in an area and they made a very comfortable place for her to rest. And we've set up the family in some kind of, it's not comfortable to live under a tarp, but it's better than standing in the rain next to a pile of rubble that used to be your house. And we set them up with cook stove and a camp kitchen. So that's where we begin. That's the short-term help. We've also got from One Health Organization has been able to round up over 9,000 protein bars from Australia, and they're working on shipping those right now to Cebu. From Cebu, that'll be a strategic point. Direct Relief International already has my list of essential medicines. Remember, in Haiti, Direct Relief International delivered to us over $600,000 worth of essential medicines, and Bumi Sehat was able to distribute it. We have had incredible help over the years from Direct Relief International in Aceh. They responded immediately when Padang happened, the earthquake in Padang. They sent funds so that we could do the bucket survival kits for families.
Right now, and then we'll start recording again. Okay, keep going. That's good.
Okay. Hi, Bumi Sehat family. So I am still sitting here in Bali. A big emergency birth kit has been packed by our clinic staff yesterday. I'm waiting to hear from our team in Cebu remember that in order to have any kind of contact with me, they don't have electricity. A lot of the areas don't have any running water. Intermittent electricity allows some people to charge hand phones so they can send me text messages, but in order to do that, they have to stand on high ground and hold the hand phones up in the sky and hope that a message is received or sent. So communications have been really hard, but it seems like we've got Water Foundation. They're a fantastic organization here in Indonesia with a lot of Filipino partners. They're working hand in hand with us, and we're the hands. Just remember, we can be the hands out in the field. We can bring mothers food. We can catch babies. We can try to bring water catchment and water filtration systems, but we can't do anything with these hands unless you help us. So you're the heart. It's up to you to pump us full of the nutrients that we need, the funding that we need in order to do this. And that's already begun. I want to thank everybody. It's really fantastic. Laura Satchel, the CNN hero of one of the top 10 for this year, has already sent 10 solar suitcases for maternity wards in the Philippines. We'll be getting ours soon, so that babies can be delivered with at least a little light. And believe me, I've received babies in the pitch dark in Indonesia in disaster zones, and it's better to have a little light. So
can you tell us then how people actually are supposed to donate to you?
Okay, so you can go to the Bumi Sehat website, and there is a donate button now. I haven't actually seen it because our internet's been out here in Bali for a couple days, but now I've got internet, so I'm going to go look at that. It seems like it's pretty good.
Exactly what is your URL? What is your internet address exactly?
Ooh, I can't tell you that, Bruce. You might have to add that later.
www.bumisehat.
Oh, foundation.org.
bumisehatfoundation.org.
Foundation.org. There is a special URL for the donate to the Philippines.
And that is, I know that. That is,
you know that.
Is that /online? Or how will they find that?
Let me just see if I can get Catherine's email. Okay. There's also, you can go to Million Mothers. It's a million mothers for Bumi Sehat in the Philippines. If you Google that, yeah, she's got all kinds of things up here. Let's see what my daughter Lakota did. People have been working day and night here in Indonesia and in Vermont and in Iowa. Let's see, my daughter looks like she's getting a water suitcase, which is a suitcase which you can set up and get 100 gallons of pure water a day. The website is updated. So if you go to bumisehatfoundation.org/donate-to-Philippines, you're going to get straight to there. But if you go to bumisehatfoundation.org, she's got a link on that homepage.
Okay. Good.
So you will be able to donate, and it will go. Believe me, we're being very careful to make sure that the donor's money goes where the donors want it.
All right.
Because we know you work really hard, and we know that you want to help, and that you don't want to feel like you've given money and nothing comes to the people. So we're going to really take care of that, make sure that people get everything.
Can we also donate to a general donation to Bumi Sehat and then put a earmark on that? On the website?
Apparently it's hard to market. What we've done is we've just taken these dates, and we know that since about 5 days ago, 6 days ago, people have been generally donating just for the Philippines, unless they send us an email and say this is for your building fund. Remember, we're still building a clinic here in Bali, and if you send an email to info@bumisehatbali.org or bumisehatfoundation.org, you are going to end up, that will eventually say, attention Ibu Robin. That'll go to me, and I'll make sure that finance. So when you donate, you can go right onto the www.bumisehatfoundation.org. And you can also get more directly to our Philippine button. Sorry.
That's okay.
I'm in a public place.
I'm in a Skype.
Yeah.
Can you just come into the Skype room, which is the one over there?
Oh, okay.
All right, thank you.
It's okay. Hi, sorry, Bruce.
That's okay.
I had to move to a public place.
Right.
You have to edit this out, but I'm sure his call with his girlfriend's more important.
I can
That's
edit it out.
You know, you can really get. We could do a special edition of Ibu Robin bitching, and that would be terrible to put online because, really, I'm sorry, I don't care about his Skype call with his girlfriend.
I know.
You know, they moved me to a little room. That's okay. It's fine. It's a bamboo room. And
so we were just
you know,
we were just finishing up then about the donations.
Okay, so it looks like my amazing daughter set up a button that says bumisehatfoundation.org/donate-to-Philippines. That or a million mothers. Just Google a million mothers Bumi Sehat. So there's two really easy places. If you just go to the bumisehatfoundation.org homepage, you're going to find the buttons will lead you there. Thank heaven for all these amazing technical people that Catherine's daughter and my daughter who've been working full-time on this. Lots of people here have been staying up burning the midnight candle, including you, Bruce.
I haven't been doing as much as I want to. Okay, now the next question is, and this is not necessarily public, I'm just going to keep recording, do you have any ideas on how we can further spread this in the United States? Because all I really have is you're mailing a list of about 150 people.
Because I'm in a place now where there is internet, I'm going to send you Catherine's Million Mothers and Lakota's, and you can do whatever you want if you want to just put it all together into one email and send it to my email list, because remember, each of those birth keepers has a huge mailing list.
Great.
They're pretty amazing.
Great. And
all the people in Fairfield, hi Fairfield, love you. How'd you like it when my daughter came and made a film there?
That's good.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping she's going to come for Christmas home to Bali, because then I'm going to take her to the Philippines to do some filming. So I'm going to try to I'm not good at photos and things like that. I also am not good at taking photos of people suffering. So I'm going to try to keep it on the positive side while I'm there. I have to tell you that, and this is, it might sound strange. When we got to the tsunami zone, the reality was that in our area, 400,000 people died. Whatever the official numbers were, that was 400,000 people. According to the military, that's how many bodies they recovered.
Wow.
So the thing about that many people dying is none of those 400,000 people needed to be fed. We still had to feed a lot of people. We still had to get a lot of tents organized. It took months. The tsunami happened at the end of December, and I remember in April and May being angry because I still didn't have tents for all the surviving people. And these were just fractions of families. Everyone lost people. So when you saw the footage on television about the Philippines, it was terrible. But to the credit of the Philippine government, they had satellite pictures of that storm, and for 5 days they knew it was coming. And you can imagine the fear of the people who have the job of caring for their people. But they were able to move 800,000 people. They evacuated them away from the shorelines of all those islands in the central Philippines. And those 800,000 people were saved. And that's just such great news.
Yes.
But now they have to be fed. And now they're thirsty and they're homeless. They have no homes to go home to. They have no fishing boats. Their livelihood, they were seafaring people. Their livelihood is gone for the moment. And for a long time. So Bumi Sehat's plan is to be very sustainable. Just like we're still in Aceh. We're still in Aceh. This December 26th, it'll be 9 years since the tsunami. And so we don't go in and, I mean, there are times when I'll take that back. There are times when we go in and we do a quick patch-up disaster relief when we're called, and we'll do that. And we try to set up something that the local people can take over. Because I am local.
Repeat the last paragraph and we'll be fine.
Okay. So we're going to talk about sustainability. When you have a situation where 800,000 people have been evacuated from the coastline, and hallelujah, their lives were saved, but now they're looking at being hungry, thirsty, and homeless. There's no place for them to go home to. There are no fishing boats. There's no livelihood. And so that that recovery for that many people, there's 11.5 million people affected by Typhoon Yolanda. 11.5 million people. And for all of them, there's different levels of effect. But for sure, for the 800,000 people that survived from the coastlines that were evacuated to different centers, they need to find a way to go home. They need to find a way to eat and a way to drink water, to drink healthy water. And they need medicines. Many of them are injured, many of them are sick, and 14.6% of them are pregnant. So that's where Bumi Sehat starts to think about long-term recovery. And again, working with WADA Foundation, we have been moving into the Philippines. So in a way, we're very well positioned to do something long-term, just as we have been in Aceh we have no exit strategy in Aceh. We are the last nonprofit organization in the Malabo area. You'll still find beautiful organizations helping out in Banda Aceh, in the big city. But out there close to the epicenter, we're the only thing left in the Lok Babun, Kampong Chot area. So we have a clinic that's permanent. We have a staff of 22 people living in, and they will be there as long as people fund it, which as far as I'm concerned is forever. But we're looking at the same thing in the Philippines.
So do you think then you'll be basically having 3 organization locations then that are major in the world? And will you be able to continue funding them?
Oh, I have faith that people will fund them. We have an incredible platform for helping mothers, babies, communities. You know, when communities fall apart, when they lose everything, the people in the world, I can't tell you how many emails and how many Facebook messages I got, because it was thousands within hours of the storm striking. And we started working at Bumi Sehat before the storm actually hit. We started to talk about how we're going to do this. We started to strategize. We started to think about. And I was actually afraid to make that commitment because, it's, as you know, it's a huge one, and I don't do it lightly. But when I announced at 1 in the morning on Facebook 4 nights ago that definitely Bumi Sehat was going in, there was this cry of joy. So people had a way of actually donating to an organization that they've donated to before and they've trusted. And for your trust, I really thank everyone.
Wonderful. So thank you very much. And once again, say one more sentence about your focus on the mothers and the babies. One more sentence.
The thing that Bumi Sehat does better than anything else is that when there's a disaster, we are the ones that go in and take care of the pregnant women, the mothers, the babies, the breastfeeding mothers, and the infants and children. That's our focus. So we really couldn't do it without you. We're just the hands in the field. We're the hands. You're the heart.
All righty. So I think I need to go, and I'll edit this and send it out. Thank you.
We lost our connection.
Yeah, I know.